It's 2 a.m. The deadline is in 6 hours, and suddenly, miraculously, you are the most productive human being on the planet. Words flow, ideas connect. Your focus is razor sharp. You accomplish in 4 hours what you couldn't start for 4 weeks. And somewhere between the third coffee and the rising sun, a small voice whispers, "Why can't I just do this normally?" Here's the thing. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're not missing some discipline gene that everyone else seems to have. You are running a system, and the system requires panic to function. What if I told you that procrastination has nothing to do with laziness? What if it's not a time problem at all? What if it's the most logical response your nervous system could give to a very specific kind of fear? It's not laziness. The biggest lie we've been told about procrastination is that it's a time management problem, that if we just had the right planner, the right app, the right system, we'd finally get things done. But think about it. You don't procrastinate on everything. You don't procrastinate on watching your favorite show. You don't procrastinate on scrolling your phone. You don't procrastinate on the things that feel safe. You procrastinate on the things that make you feel something you don't want to feel. Anxiety, the fear of not being good enough, the dread of being judged, the terror of starting something and discovering that you're not as capable as you pretend to be. Procrastination is not a time management problem. It is an emotion regulation problem. And no planner in the world can fix an emotion you haven't named. And here's where it connects to something we talked about in a previous video: perfectionism. For many people, maybe for you, procrastination and perfectionism are two sides of the same coin. The perfectionist says, "It has to be perfect." And the procrastinator responds, "Then I'd rather not start." Because not starting is safer than starting and failing. Not beginning protects you from the possibility that your best isn't good enough. That is not laziness. That is self-protection. The adrenaline trap. Now here's the part nobody talks about, the part that makes procrastination so hard to quit: the adrenaline. When the deadline is close and the panic sets in, something extraordinary happens in your body. Your adrenal glands flood your system with cortisol and adrenaline. Your focus sharpens. Your energy spikes. The fog lifts. Suddenly, you can think, you can write, you can create. And it feels amazing. Not just productive, alive. More alive than you felt all day, all week, all month. And this is the trap. Because your brain doesn't remember the shame afterward, it remembers the rush, and it learns. The only way to access that level of focus, that intensity, that aliveness is through emergency. So you start needing the emergency, not wanting it, needing it. Your nervous system becomes dependent on crisis to produce what should be available in ordinary life: focus, motivation, energy. And the cycle looks like this. A task appears. You avoid it. The avoidance creates guilt. The guilt creates more avoidance. Time passes. Panic arrives. Adrenaline floods in. You work brilliantly under pressure. You finish. You crash. You feel shame. You swear never again. And then a new task appears, and it starts again. This is not a character flaw. It is a loop. And like all loops, it can be broken, but not with discipline, with understanding. Your body is telling you something important. I don't know how to activate without threat. I was never taught that productivity can feel calm. I only know the emergency version. In holistic practice, this is well understood. The nervous system that is stuck in a cycle of freeze, panic, crash is a nervous system that never learned regulation. Not because you're broken, because no one taught you. The fears behind the freeze. So what's really happening when you sit in front of the screen and can't start? If you looked underneath the paralysis, really looked, you would almost always find one of these. What if it's not good enough? What if I fail? What if they judge me? What if I succeed and then have to keep succeeding? That last fear is the one nobody talks about, the fear of success. Because success creates expectations, and expectations create pressure. And pressure creates the very thing you're trying to escape. And here is the compassionate truth. The part of you that procrastinates is not your enemy. It is a protector, an inner guardian who learned, probably very early, that the safest place is not yet, not now. Wait until it's safe. And maybe it was never safe. Maybe every time you tried, someone judged, or compared, or raised the bar. And so the protector said, if we don't start, we can't fail. If we don't try, we can't be found lacking. That is not laziness. That is a child inside you who is still bracing for the red pen. Starting without the emergency. So how do you break the cycle? How do you start without the panic? The answer is not what the productivity world tells you. It's not about habits or apps or accountability partners or waking up at 5 a.m. The answer starts in the body. Because procrastination is a freeze state, and you don't think your way out of a freeze. You move your way out. Before you try to work, try to move. Stand up, stretch, walk around the room. Take 3 deep breaths, not because it's a productivity hack, but because your nervous system needs to shift out of freeze before your brain can engage. The second step is the most important. Give yourself permission to start badly, not well, not inspired, not perfectly, just badly. Write the worst first sentence you can. Make the ugliest first draft. Begin with something so imperfect that your inner critic has nothing to grab onto, because you already know it's bad. That's its job. It's a first draft. And first drafts are supposed to be terrible. The third step is to make the task laughably small. Not write the report, but open the document. Not go to the gym, but put on the shoes. Not change your life, but do the next thing. Because the hardest part of procrastination is never the middle. It's never the end. It's always, always the beginning. And the fourth step, and this one is for those of you who are addicted to the adrenaline, is to learn what calm productivity feels like. It will feel wrong. It will feel flat. It will feel like nothing is happening, because your nervous system is used to crisis energy. Working without panic will feel like driving without music, eerily quiet. It will feel wrong at first. It will feel too quiet, because your nervous system is used to crisis energy. Working without panic will feel unfamiliar, like driving without music. And part of you will think, nothing is happening. But stay with it, because something extraordinary is waiting on the other side of that quiet. Flow, not the adrenaline version of focus, that sharp, panicked, borrowed energy that burns out in hours. Something completely different. The kind of focus where you sit down to do something and time simply disappears. Where you look up and 2 hours have passed and you didn't notice. where the work isn't fueled by fear, but by something closer to love. That is flow, and it is the opposite of the adrenaline trap. Not because it's less intense, but because it doesn't cost you anything. Adrenaline borrows energy from your future self. Flow generates energy from the present moment. And the irony? You can't enter flow through panic. You can only enter it through calm, through the quiet start, through the imperfect beginning that the perfectionist in you was too afraid to make. Flow is what productivity feels like when it's not running from something, but running toward it. You know this feeling. You've had it. When you paint or write or garden or build something or lose yourself in a conversation that matters, time stops. The inner critic goes quiet. You are not performing. You are simply doing. That is the real reward on the other side of the adrenaline trap. Not flatness, not some gray, dutiful version of productivity. Flow is alive. It is as intense as the adrenaline, maybe more, but it doesn't cost you your health, your sleep, or your self-respect. It feeds you instead of draining you. You don't need the emergency. You just think you do, because it's the only version of productive you were ever taught. There is another version. It's quieter, slower, kinder, and it still works. So here's the lesson nobody taught you about procrastination. It is not a sign that you're lazy. It is not proof that you lack discipline. It is not a character defect that separates you from the productive people who seem to have it all together. It is a fear response, a protection mechanism, a nervous system that learned to operate in emergency mode because it was never taught another way. And the cure is not a better planner. The cure is not more discipline. The cure is not hating yourself into action. The cure is understanding, gentleness, and the terrifying, revolutionary willingness to begin before you're ready. You don't need to be ready. You don't need to be inspired. You don't need the panic. You just need to be willing to start, imperfectly, badly, humanly, and trust that the rest will follow. It will. It always does. Now, I know what some of you are doing right now. You're watching this video instead of doing the thing you're supposed to be doing. And that's okay. Because maybe this was the thing you needed first, the permission to understand yourself instead of punishing yourself. This is part of a series called Lessons Nobody Taught You. The next chapter is waiting, and whenever you get to it, that's the right time.